people coming to the UK on small boats is up 38% since Labour came into office. That's according to new Home Office figures, which also reveal an 8% increase in the number of people in asylum hotels.
Well, the government's seeking a solution about where to house asylum seekers after Epping Council won an interim legal battle to stop them being placed in a hotel. Yesterday, we asked the Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp where he thought migrants should be housed.
Straight away it's framed as numbers, percentages and hotels, not people. These are not logistics, they're human lives.
So, Mark, let's start with you in that case. On this whole concept of compounds, is it a feasible solution, do you think, and is it a fair solution?
I think it's both feasible and fair. It would require a bit of imagination. To give your viewers a sense of the scale here, the rough number of people we've got in asylum hotels is about the same who go to the Glastonbury Music Festival on any given day. So that's the sort of scale of a compound or an encampment that you would need to house all of them. I'm very, very open to us exploring those sort of possibilities, whether it's an encampment, whether, as Chris Philp says, you can use former military barracks. I'd put all of that on the table, and I think is far, far better than commandeering four-star hotels in Canary Wharf. We don't need to assimilate these people into British society because it's important to understand they're not migrants, they're asylum seekers. And the question is, are they going to stay in Britain or not? They're in a holding pattern until we've decided that. Now, once we let them in, if we say, yes, your application's been successful, by all means, at that point, it's about assimilating them into the local community. We've got to be quicker at actually processing these claims. Ludicrous. It takes months or years to process a claim, but while your claim is being processed, I think you can be in a compound or an encampment.
He's literally comparing asylum seekers to Glastonbury Festival crowds, reducing refugees to tents and numbers, and calling them a holding pattern until Britain decides if they deserve dignity.
Go through.
I'm just sick to the back teeth of hearing people park people in what seems to me internment camps in random parts of the country where they don't have the same access to integrate into communities, to make the case, to develop their skills, to understand what it's like to live in Britain. Instead, we want to put people out of sight, out of mind, park them in some random part of the country. That's only going to foster greater grievances between people. It's not going to ensure British people have an understanding as to why people are coming here. I don't think many people willingly put their children and their wives and others on boats if they weren't in a desperate situation. I just think it's absolutely scandalous, the idea that you could just park people out of sight and out of mind.
Exactly. Nobody risks their children's lives on a dinghy, unless the sea is safer than the land. That's desperation, not convenience.
Well, that's another thing, is the fact that the landlords of these massive hotels are creaming off the taxpayer, making huge amounts of money. Hotels are for people when they're going on holiday, not for people who are coming over here hoping to claim asylum. You're right, there are more men coming over to this country, and I think that does have to be addressed. But there are so many people, there are women, there are children coming here fleeing from very desperate circumstances, and we need to look at actually how we integrating these people. Many people, most reasonable people, wouldn't even put their dogs in this situation.
See the narrative. Blame asylum seekers for hotel costs, when it's landlords and the government cashing in. Refugees didn't choose hotels. The Home Office did.
You're free to leave at any time. If you want to go home, you just put your hand in the air, we'll send you back to whence you came. So you're completely free to leave. It's hardly an internment camp. And I think we'll need a range of options. If the political will's there, we can do it. Let me give you an example. During COVID, at the outset of COVID, it took us 7 days to build a Nightingale hospital in London. If you've got the will to do it, you can build things quite sophisticated very quickly.
Free to leave back to war, persecution, maybe death. That's not freedom. That's cruelty disguised as policy. And comparing asylum to a pop-up hospital shows how detached this debate is from humanity.
These are not migrants. These are not people who've been awarded a right to stay or a right to work here. These are people who are in a holding pattern until we've decided that. So you don't need to assimilate them. We may well be sending them back home. Now, I agree, it's almost inhumane that that process takes a year often, sometimes 2. But we're not assimilating these people into British society because we haven't decided whether they're staying yet.
So the logic is, keep them isolated, deny them normal life, then maybe send them back. That's not a system. That's cruelty by
To be clear,
design.
the Home Office said this government inherited a broken asylum system. At the peak, there were over 400 hotels open. We'll be continuing to work with local authorities and communities to address legitimate concerns. Our work continues to close all asylum hotels by the end of this Parliament.
Classic. Blame the last government. Meanwhile, the people stuck in limbo are paying the real price. They need safety and dignity, not to be used as a political football.